Welcome to the second Monday here. I'm Jamie Dunphy, I'm your host for the evening. Woo! Yeah, me! Well, hey friends. So my name is Jamie Dunphy. I am a volunteer board member with Music Portland. I chair the Music Policy Council, and I also am the host of Stumptown Soundcheck, the podcast through Portland Radio Project. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Thank you for caring about Portland's music scene. Tonight is intended to be an informational discussion about what is happening in our community, some specific concerns about what we're doing, and some opportunities to talk. So I just did that. Here's our agenda, which I just said. First, we're going to talk about what is actually being proposed here in the ODOT blocks. The ODOT blocks are behind you. It is these 3 empty blocks showing off the bridge. We're going to talk a little bit about what Live Nation has done in other communities where it's built venues. We're going to talk about some specific things we should be talking about here in Portland, and what do we do next. And then we'll talk about it, just Q&A. First, can everybody hear me? We good? All right, I'm pretty loud. I appreciate it. It's too loud? All right, I'm going to back up a little bit. I'm being too loud. That is never... I mean, it's the nicest microphone I've ever talked into, so. All right, well, friends, what is being proposed here? The ODOT blocks, back in 2016, November of 2016, these 3 pieces of land were purchased by Prosper Portland. That's our economic development agency. They were purchased, yes, right over there, purchased from ODOT, the Oregon Department of Transportation. As I understand it, and this is not for sure, they were just used as part of I-5. When we were building I-5, that was where they stored stuff for a long time. So it hasn't been anything for a very long time. Back in 2016, November 2016, the purchase price for the 3 blocks, as I understand it, is $2.485 million. At the time, the quote, the ODOT RFP, by the way, I hate PowerPoint. I apologize in advance for using it. Primary goal for the development is to achieve an industrial mixed-use project that includes ground floor industrial space, preferably with an affordability component, ground floor retail space, and industrial or industrial office space in upper floors to maximize employment. 2016, we were having some interesting conversations about needing office space. We were having conversations about the affordability of Portland. This is well before COVID happened. The conversations that our economic development agencies were trying to solve are a little bit different than they were then. Part of this deal was going to be that Prosper Portland was going to retain the land for whoever is developing it underneath it. And the developer would agree to a long-term lease. This is going to be an income stream for Prosper Portland for a long time, for about at least 100 years. The land for per block, as I understand it, this is based off of the publicly available documents of the term sheet for Block A, which is this one right here. I believe it's going to be similar for other blocks, but as I understand it, valued as $3.304 million, $3.3 million. And from that, the individual block would pay the city, or pay the Prosper. They're not the city technically, they are a separate entity, but they would pay Prosper $134,000 a year for 20 years, then escalating. This is a little boring, I'm sorry, friends. We're getting into the details because the details matter. Back in 2018, there was a public process. I, at the time, worked for one of our Portland City Commissioners, for Portland City Commissioner Nick Fish, and I had the opportunity to sit on the RFP selection committee. An RFP is a request for proposal. At that time, in May of 2018, Beam Development was awarded their contract. The proposal was for industrial space, office space, public parking, creative flexible workspace, and retail, spread out along these 3 blocks, not all in one building. They had a 99-year lease on the land, and this matters, they currently have exclusivity through the end of March of 2024. This is a phased development. 3 city blocks, you're not going to build all 3 city blocks at the same time. You're going to build the first one and then move on to the second one. So the original plan is for Block A, this most north block to begin. The original proposal did not include a performance venue. This is a little controversial, and we're going to have what's called a color of money problem. Public financial support, as I define it, are taxpayer dollars that come from a central source and are decided by a public body and are spent in the community. These public dollars could come in the form of a check, it could come in the form of tax incentives, it could come in the form of relief in certain other ways. I'm using this term broadly. Public dollars going into a project. And I'm willing to talk with everybody about this because this is the most controversial part. But Prosper Portland is retaining the land. As we talked about earlier, Prosper bought the land for $2.485 million, boop, valued it over a few years as $3.5 million. So we're going to say that this land is worth $3.3 million. The city, or Prosper, the public body, is retaining responsibility for pollution remediation to the tune of $725 million in soil removal and remediation. Additionally, the Prosper Portland was given permission to do site remediation or site readiness preparations. These are things like, we know this is not as currently as it's land there, ready for development. There's work that needs to be done. Any development includes site acquisition and site readiness, right? You got to bring the utilities to it. You got to make sure stuff's not going to fall into the river. We got to make sure it's not going to damage existing infrastructure. The city, Prosper Portland's board of directors approved the Prosper team to seek reimbursement up to $17 million, or is estimated to be between $13 and $17 million from a reimbursement from a public fund called the State of Oregon Site Readiness Preparation Grant Fund, which means that Prosper is prepared to spend this much money and seek money back from the state. Then COVID happened.
That's wrong, Jamie.
What?
That's wrong.
The site remediation thing? We've got quotes from Prosper staff in the Department of Journal, but I'd love to hear more when we can talk. See, immediately I'm wrong, but I would love to get an opportunity for our friends to do it. So I will come back to this. So COVID happened. The timeline for all of the project was blown, obviously. The site had a higher use for a number of years. In fact, if folks remember, this was used as an intentional pod village for homeless folks for quite a while. Another fact, no one needs office space anymore. So the plan for office space is just not going to pencil anymore. This Beam development had to pivot. They simply had to. So what is being proposed? In 2022, in March of 2022, we found out at least, Beam pivoted because no one needs office space anymore. They had entered into an agreement with Live Nation to build a 3,500 capacity venue on Southeast Water Avenue. This would be a 2,000 capacity on the floor with 1,500 in a mezzanine level above. Approximately 59,000 square foot venue, about 126 shows a year, 81 of those hosted by Live Nation, 20 agreed to by Live Nation to be community-based events, available to local promoters or anyone who would want to use the space. And then they planned for 25 other special events, weddings, things like that. Beam Development and Colas Construction are planning to retain ownership of the venue itself. Live Nation will be the long-term leaseholder, and they're anticipating it being about $47 million in construction costs, and plans to be opened in 2025. So here's what is being said about Portland. Portland has a gap. This is an analysis done by Johnson Economics and Prosper Portland to show the size of the venues that Portland has. And I'm not gonna lie to you, there's clearly some gaps here. We have a lot of representation at the small end of the venue set. We have some pretty good representation in the under 2,000 capacity. And we have our big guys. We have the MODA, we got the Memorial Coliseum, we have Theater of the Clouds. If you can see in the back, we do have gaps. And the proposed Live Nation venue is filling this gap here. If you can't read it here, these venues are between the Theater of the Clouds, which is the smaller version of the MODA, the Keller, and the Schnitz. Theater of the Clouds is when the MODA Center is cut into like half and then like just the upper part. They can get it down to 5,500 people from the 19,000 full Moda Center. So, what else are we saying? Portland's a mid-sized market, and our demographic is less favorable. We're old and we're not diverse. According to this, currently Live Nation represents fewer than 2% of shows booked in the Portland metro. And music is a very big deal here, but most of our shows are small and most of our venues are small. Okay. So who's Live Nation? I assume if you're here, you know, but if you don't, Live Nation is a global entertainment company. They own Ticketmaster. They have a well-documented and undisputed track record of anti-competitive, monopolistic, and predatory practices throughout the country. They regularly and repeatedly violate negotiated consent decrees with the US Department of Justice regarding their monopolistic business practices, health and safety violations, and their unfair ticketing and refund policies. They've actively sought to hurt independent music. I don't want to read this, the whole thing, because you guys can read, but you can read, but okay. They have actively sought to hurt local independent music in countless jurisdictions. It is not unintentional, blundering action of an overly large and unwieldy company, but it's an active, aggressive, and arguably illegal set of operational practices intended to drive local music venue owners out of business. One of Live Nation's largest investors is the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia. They have an enormous human rights record violation, war crimes are well documented, and they have a 5.7% ownership worth over $1 billion. In preparation for this, I had conversations with friends of ours in communities across the country. In Nashville, there was a public piece of waterfront property. In fact, I'm just gonna open this all the way up because I wanna just tell this story. In Nashville, they had a piece of waterfront property that was publicly owned. It used to be a trash dump. It was literally where the city would burn their trash. For decades, they tried to find a way to reuse it. And the local government's plan was they transferred it to the Parks Department and then sought a private contractor who would run a performance venue. At the city's dime, in a no-bid contract, Live Nation came in to control the venue. They built it to their specs. They build the public entity, the money to pay for it. They built a 9-foot fence around this public park so that people can't actually use it unless they are ticketed. They then began to aggressively try and buy out the rest of the city. They bought out venues of similar size to their waterfront place and kept them empty in order to drive additional traffic to this new venue. Chris Cobb, who's the owner of 2 local venues in Nashville, 2 of the last independent venues in Nashville, has a text message exchange with an executive at Live Nation. And he said in no uncertain terms, "Our plan is to come into your community and bleed the competition." They do this by overpaying for tours because they can pay for the tour packages coming in at prices way above what any of us could ever afford. They never allow local performances. They do not have any local infrastructure to build out local venues. And their government was really focused on globalization and corporatization. They truly do not care about independent music as long as they are still having music. To this point, Live Nation owns roughly 90% of the live music venues in Nashville. The city of Chicago. Well, the city government owned some waterfront property, and they wanted to do something about it. This was a piece of land that nobody was able to do anything with for a very long time. And so a developer came in and got a subsidized land deal from the city government. And the city approved $1.5 billion in tax increment financing. Oops. The developer then partnered with Live Nation to build a mega campus with 5 performance venues directly across the street from a number of existing performance venues. And in Chicago, they stopped Live Nation. The venues got together and they showed up to City Hall and they voiced their problems about this. This mega campus was scrapped. They fully credit community organization on the part of the reason that was able to stop. Live Nation still owns 2 venues in that space, but it wasn't able to devastate the the local scene the way that they had tried. So Live Nation is here in Portland. They're here already. They just happen to be we're the last major city without a Live Nation-owned venue. But they're booking shows here. And in fairness, and I want to be totally transparent about this, we've had a great relationship with Mary Claire, who is the local Live Nation rep. People here have great working relationships with them. It's not about the individuals, it's about the potential of what's going to happen here. Everybody has been a good partner so far, but it's what happens in other cities that shows the template for what we're going to be doing. Music Portland has been advocating on your behalf for over a year now about this. And we've asked for specific written concessions. Just as a brainstorm, prior to even going to the community, saying for things, as a community, what could we feel good about knowing that there are bookends set around this giant company coming into our community? So we came up with a brainstormed list and asked for these. We said no dividing the venue. Right now, as I said, it's 2,000 on the bottom, 1,500 on the top. You close that mezzanine, now you've got a 2,000 cap venue that's directly competing with Roseland, with the Crystal, the folks across the river, with Rev Hall, with everybody. We asked not to have removable seating installed. The Keller is a 2,000 cap or a 3,000 cap seated venue, but it's very easy to have these removable stanchioned chairs that you can come in, and then suddenly this venue is now directly competing with the Keller on both levels. We asked no additional purchasing or building of venues in Portland in the immediate future. When Live Nation moved into Houston and built an enormous 6,000 person venue, the next thing they did as soon as they opened is they built a 250 person venue attached to it. When they moved into Nashville, as I was saying, the next thing they did is they bought a lower performing venue and then shut it down. And then they bought other venues that were smaller to have in their repertoire. And now they own 90% of the capacity in Nashville. We asked for affordable community use of the space when available. As I mentioned earlier, Live Nation did say they are going to plan on 20 community shows. The experience other promoters have had is that those 20 shows are so unaffordable that it's a money-losing opportunity for everybody involved. Live Nation is still the only person who comes out ahead. That's not an asset to our community at that point. We asked to reduce the use of performance radius clauses. We asked to include a local percentage of openers, including all ages acts, creating that pipeline, making sure we not only have our local talent getting exposed to the audiences that are already here, but also building that pipeline from the babies on up. We gotta get more spaces for kids. Live Nation has declined. So what comes next? First and foremost, we have to speak together as a community. The only thing that has worked is when the local music community comes together and is unified behind one voice. And everybody who's worked in this community knows that we're 1,000 different small communities and every person is their own island. We need you to join in. And I'm only one person here, and I can need your stories and your voices and your support to try and port this. So if you're not a member of Music Portland yet, please join. I want to make this clear. Prosper Portland has no say who Beam Development subleases with. The city council has no say in who Beam Development signs a lease with. The Bureau of Development Services issues permits on the building, not on who their leaseor is. The Bureau of Transportation must still approve the transportation impact. There's a lot of stuff between here and there, but between this today and this project breaking ground. For those of you who came here today, I suspect at least a significant number of you were stopped by the train. How is a 4,000 or 3,500 capacity venue going to happen here? What's going to happen when we have a medical issue or, God forbid, a terrorist attack and there's a train coming through? There's a lot that has to happen still, but our community still has time to work. To Portland City Council's credit and to Mayor Ted Wheeler's credit, They paid for Prosper Portland to run an economic impact study through Johnson Economics on what the actual numbers here are. Because this is, there's a lot of opportunity for emotion to get in the way here. We need to deal with facts. And in fact, as our friends from Prosper were saying, I screwed something up in this and I want to give them an opportunity to come up here and fix that for me. But we need to work with the best set of facts. And time and time again, the city and the public bodies have been showing up where we need them to. And there's only so much they can do. This economic impact study, it definitely paints a picture. There's not all bad for this. Of course, this is going to bring jobs, it's going to bring concerts, it's going to bring tourism. It's what happens down the line beyond that. So we as a music community have very few options. And I don't like very many of these, but I'm going to talk about them right now because these are the options our community has to face with. If we truly believe that this is an existential crisis, we have to come together as a community and come up with something. So our first option, scorched earth. Stop this development at all costs. I don't want to do that. That sounds bad to me, but it's an option. Second option, let's get enforceable concessions on the record. Let's have some sort of bookends put in place and have Live Nation and Beam Development agree to do this and have it be enforceable. I don't really think that that's going to happen, but it's an option. So I think that there's a call for dedicated, ongoing public dollars to help support the infrastructure that exists today. What does that look like? I don't know yet, but public dollars can help put some lifeblood and some energy back into the existing music venues that are going to directly be impacted by a new venue like this. And I truly don't know what a fourth option is, some combination of the rest of them.
How far along the lease to Live Nation is being, how far have they gotten?
Yeah, how far in the process are we is the question.
Can a competitor come in at this point if they had a viable?
So as I understand it, there was a viable alternative option that was declined. The reality is, and I don't know this, I'm not a developer and I'm not a finance guy and I don't do math, but the economy kind of sucks and interest rates are pretty rough right now. And so finding financing to pay for a $60 million building is kind of hard. Live Nation is a multi-billion-dollar company. They can help by having a lease agreement with Beam Development. That really helps Beam find the financing that they're going to need to build the fund. So I do understand that there has been a lease agreement. I don't know if it's a permanent or final agreement, but there has been something signed between Beam and Live Nation. And the lease agreement with Beam and Prosper has been signed.
And are there opportunities for public comment? Sorry.
Yeah, there's a microphone.
My second question is, are there opportunities for public comment in any of the permitting or other steps along the way that for review for PBOT or?
Yes, there will be. The reality is that we're at the beginning of a very long process. And that's why I'm calling you all now. It's been a year that this has been in the public discourse, and we're not even at the point where they're applying for permits. No shovel has broken a single bit of ground yet, and probably won't for a while. And there's a lot of stuff between there, and there's a lot of opportunities for us to get involved. And I am going to be your representative through this up and until that point. So there's gonna be times where there's going to be a need for public comment. There's gonna be times where I'm going to need people to show up and help keep driving this home. There's nothing as powerful as all the stories in this room.
Can I ask a question?
Yeah.
This is kind of more like a systems thinking sort of question, but like with the introduction of this venue and this company into major cities in the sort of cultural infrastructure, basically what it's offering is money above arts, money above music. And I think that's a systemic problem. So it's something you're talking about, like sort of long-term things, implications, ramifications, solutions down the line. I think we should also sort of be thinking systemically, like how to prevent that kind of philosophy and approach from taking root like a virus.
Yeah.
You know, so yeah.
I agree. I absolutely agree. What do I have next? There we go. So that's basically the end. This is the opportunity now. We got a microphone here. This is a Q&A. I'm going to be able to answer, actually, before we do that, though, I'm going to invite my friends from Prosper up here to come correct the record because I don't understand enough about this stuff to be dangerous. But I also want you all to have an opportunity to help me think about this, help us think about this. I'm not the music industry. You guys are the music industry. I can use my talents and time to help advance this as far as I can, but I got to know what it's like actually running a venue. I don't do that. I got to know what it's like right now gigging in Portland in 2024. I don't do that right now, or 2023. I'm ahead of myself. So should we talk later? Please. Yeah. Either way.
Yeah, so there's no public subsidy going into the project. So the program's called the Regionally Significant Industrial Sites Program. There's no public money going into this project. Like, I want to get that on the record. There's no subsidy. The second is, I think you answered very accurately that ultimately it's going to take about $50 million, $60 million to build a project. We were approached in Old Town, as was covered in the press recently. We were asked for $30 million of public subsidy to fund a locally owned venue. This is going to be a locally owned venue because it will be owned by Colas Development together with Beam Development. I would also get on the record, it's actually a partnership between Colas Development and Beam Development, which I think is important, but no public subsidy. It will be going to a locally owned venue owner. So the capital is being brought to bear, private to private transaction between Live Nation, Beam Development, and Colas Development, where 100% of that financing will be private. There is no money going into any of the infrastructure. If you look at the regionally significant industrial sites, it has a list of what the eligible costs are. We are not going to apply for resources through the regionally significant industrial sites. The last thing I did want to capture, because the land value, this is going to be in the weeds real estate wise, the land value takes into consideration environmental cleanup. That is conventionally when you sell a property, and it's dirty, you put money into an escrow account. The person who's building pulls the money from that escrow account to clean it up as they go, because you want it to be clean so people can work, live, play, whatever they're doing. So there's no subsidy going into it. It's captured in that land value that you shared with folks. That was for Block A, not Block B, but close enough for,
Yeah,
that helpful?
well, so that's really helpful, but specifically the industrial site readiness public grant from the state of Oregon. It's not City of Portland money, but the industrial site readiness.
We're not applying.
You're not applying for that at all anymore. That is off the table.
Nope.
Okay, cool.
That was always off the table. It's we don't have it by rights. Jamie, we would have to apply for it.
Well, yeah, but in August of 2019, the Prosper Board approved seeking upwards of $17 million.
Yeah, and what the Prosper Board actually approved was also us as the regional entity. So if you're building out by the airport, or you're building out in East Portland and we are going for cleanup, we are the entity within the city of Portland who can apply to the state program. I can tell you we are not applying for regionally significant industrial sites, and it's eligible throughout the city.
Okay. Thank you.
Sorry, it's
No.
important. Oh, in terms of, I can't speak on the concessions to Live Nation. I think I wish their rep had a chance to be here.
Absolutely.
But there is a conversation that is happening amongst kind of a group. Jamie put similar asks, Music Portland put similar asks at the table with Live Nation as well as Beam Development. And I don't think the answer is closed yet. I guess this is what it would be helpful to hear everybody's feedback on is we're holding another meeting, kind of Music Portland is at that table, same as they helped us write the report. If you look at a lot of the data that's in there, it actually came from Music Portland. So I don't know that it's closed. I think it's an accurate statement that I'm not sure they can say yes to everything, but I also can't speak on their behalf. So I think it's fair to understand where everybody's priorities are about your asks.
Absolutely.
Okay.
Absolutely. Thank you.
Is that okay?
So, y'all, here's the thing. These things are stupidly complicated. I've been trying to understand how these things work for a better part of a decade, and I don't. We need to be ready, though, for what is going to be happening to our community, and we need to be unified as a Portland music community. That is the biggest thing we need right now. A lot of these other things are going to come along, and there's going to be a lot of obstacles between there and now, and we need to have a clear sense of what it is we as a community really feel like is worth investing in. Because, like I said, this is people's livelihood. This is all of y'all's livelihoods. This is also the reason why we live here. So we need to think about these things and recognize, like, are we being overreactionary, or are we recognizing that we are the last thing that lives before a corporate hellscape takes over our local music scene as well? We need to remember that we don't burn bridges in this city because there's too few of us, right? I truly value the partnership I have with our public partners here. We're not villainizing anybody in this other than Live Nation, who has repeatedly shown as a national and international organization that they are not somebody you want to do business with. And they control so many parts of this that they are going to just overwhelm us if we don't come prepared. Questions, comments, concerns, open diatribes. Jump into the microphone.
I'm going to jump in.
Yeah.
Just with a suggestion. If we don't go with the scorched earth, keep them out at all costs. Something to think about adding to the list would be that money that Prosper is getting in an ongoing way out from this be committed to support of independent music in the city.
Now, I'll note, it's $130-something thousand a year. That's not a huge amount of money. That's, I think, slightly less than one full-time employee in the city of Portland with benefits right now. That said, there's a lot to be said about even small gestures leading to bigger gestures of dedicated support. I love that idea.
Okay, so I'm not totally sure that my thoughts are fully formed, so bear with me.
They don't need to be. You're fine.
But I think, and I welcome and appreciate having a representative from the city that can speak directly to this. But what I have seen in other cities, so I work with Amped Up and have, we kind of got started, even though I live in Portland, due to some external factors, we also got started in Austin and have seen, what has happened there, and how pretty much every Austin musician tells me it's great to be from Austin. It's not great to play in Austin, and that's not what we want here. And I think if we're all honest with ourselves, it is unlikely that anyone in this room, except maybe one, would play at this venue. And I think we need to consider that. And I think that all of the finances and all of the things that go into this, as you said, it's very complex, and like sort of the Portland mentality is be like, oh, I don't want to overstep my boundaries. I don't want to make anybody mad. But at the end of the day, all we should be looking at, and this is what we look to Music Portland, wherever you are, Mira, is what is the data show us for music health, for the independent music scene in other cities where Live Nation has come in. And all of the rest of the finances, all of the rest of the contract terms, they really don't matter. It really only matters what the historical data shows from other cities. And if we ignore that, then we would be fools to do that, and at our own peril. And we should just accept that that's the direction that our industry is going to go. So, I look to people like you, and I look to Music Portland, and I think that, again, that's why memberships are so valuable in Music Portland, is because we need people that can have a head for this, that can be inside all of that data, that can come in and tell us, here's what it shows. Even if the contracts sound friendly, obviously they've overstepped, like the Department of Justice, or what is it that for monopolies?
Yep.
They just ignore. Yep. So
I don't disagree with you. An interesting fact that we have learned in this process.
So anything we put in contracts will probably be
no,
overstepped.
absolutely not. But data is neither friendly or unfriendly. Data is just data, right? And what we found out is that y'all aren't great at keeping data. Turns out that the independent music scene in every community does not have a centralized, standardized database that they keep all of their ticket sales and things in there. Live Nation does. And so it was really easy for when our economists started looking at actual economic data, just pull up Polestar data, no problem. Oh, look, we have zip codes and addresses and gender and racial data about every single ticket for every stadium tour, but nothing for the smaller sizes. So this economic impact study that will be coming out shortly to Prosper Portland's credit, they took the word final off of the document, put draft on it, and gave us an extra couple of weeks to find better local data here about Portland. But again, data is neither friendly nor unfriendly. It is just data. And so we need to, again, if you run a venue, by the way, I would like your data, please. Not joking. I want that. And so it's going to be about how we use data and how we talk about the story. And the story is incomplete because things like Nashville, 98% of the, or 90% of the market is Live Nation. So, but yes, data is always king. AJ.
So I'm just wondering, is there a way where if we were in a position to, I guess, like moving forward, like 2024, 2025, we could try and maybe build up the artist infrastructure a little bit more in terms of what we're providing? Because I feel like a lot of our jobs are circling around the artistry here in Portland.
Yeah.
So I feel like if we're in a better position to build that up, the people will actually care about the music scene and not people who are just trying to like come up and then they leave. The ones that actually care, I feel like if they care enough, that if we build up that infrastructure in a certain way, that they'll invest into what we're doing. Like it's kind of like a 360 effect. Like you do something and then it replenishes itself. I feel like if we try and aim more towards that infrastructure, that the artists that care enough, if they're like making, monetary streams of income from like streams, merchandising, merch, and, just like other avenues of the way that they would make money, they could take that money and like structure to go back into these kind of organizations that are trying to expand in local venues and whatnot. So, certain big venues aren't trying to monopolize on our space to benefit their own income and their own infrastructure, but it would just be more of like an artist helping the big people who are actually behind the scenes doing the actual grunt of the work. So
I completely agree. Absolutely. So first and foremost, yes, that is a big reason I volunteer with Music Portland. Is my experience as a musician in the city was that we were all fighting for ourselves, and that I don't know if this has been your experience, but we're too much of an art to be considered part of the business class, but we're too much of a business to be considered part of the art class. And so we're our own little thing that's sort of been suffering out here. Music Portland has been specifically fighting about that, trying to make a strategic partnership. And actually we're actively trying to create a regional office and a statewide office of music so that we can have that dedicated buy-in from the public and from the private sector to say like music is a core of what we're doing here and we need those long-term strategic partners. So.
Hi, thank you. Two-part question. The competitor for the lease, is that public record? Do we know who that was? Do we know what they lost the lease?
Through the original RFP process? Yeah, I mean, that is public record. There were 5 firms. 3 of them were from out of town. 2 of them were from Portland. It's been so many years, I don't personally, it exists, it is public.
Okay.
But at the time, like even back in 2018, a performance venue was not in any of them, and it wasn't in consideration for any of them. And the terms would have been pretty similar. And I'll tell you that as someone who sat on that committee, Beam Development was selected specifically because of not only their long-term ties to Portland, but really their dedication to the Portland music and art scene, which is part of the reason why this is sort of a little surprising, I guess. I believe that Beam Development is doing the right thing or doing the wrong thing for the right reasons. So yes, there were some other, I know that there were, I think at least 5 other companies. One was from Dallas, one was from LA, yeah.
So basically there wasn't a local company that could come in and put a venue in?
There was not no.
Okay.
Nobody
So
had-
wanted to clarify that.
Yeah.
My second question is kind of more like long-term philosophical. I lived in DC for a lot of years and blockbusting happened and they would just basically one project would come in and then it would wipe out an entire neighborhood. What I'm concerned about, having worked at a press and worked with record companies like up on Central East Side, is that there are a lot of rehearsal spots underneath the Hawthorne Bridge.
Yes.
There's not really many more places to go. I worked with, again, a printing company and we basically took shelter with Relapse Records because they had a building and then we had to move in with Blackwater Records. And it's just like, the music companies saved these printers from development, up near Rev Hall. So I'm concerned because of the amount of traffic that's going to happen that they're probably going to have to be doing rerouting.
Yep.
and what's going to happen to everything around these 3 blocks, because
Absolutely.
there's not really a whole lot of places for people to practice anymore.
Absolutely.
So,
Correct.
yeah.
We are rapidly losing our rehearsal spaces. Thank you. Yes. Yeah. Let's applaud when people talk. Yeah, it's scary to talk in a microphone. And good thoughts.
A little bit
Sir.
higher.
Yeah, you're a little
So
taller.
it's not speaking to my belly. But anyway, I'm OG1 and thanks. But I wanted to say one thing in terms of the putting the emphasis on what Jamie was saying about the power in our collective voices is because, well, one of my challenges, I look around the room and I don't see a whole lot of people that look like me in the room, yet we all know the vast talent that is in this city of people of color. And there is a sense of discouragement because with Live Nation and companies like that that have moved in, I consider myself kind of at the top of the chain of DJs in the city.
Yep.
And I'm fortunate enough that the Live Nation doesn't own the Trailblazers because I probably would be out of a gig. But what you say, I just wanted to say that to kind of confirm what you said. At the beginning of the year, I opened up 3 Live Nation events at the Moda. It was Journey and Toto and Her and one other event. But the person that was booking told me, for me, I'm about relationships. So I said, hey, if any other, events come up, hey, put me, I'm your guy. And the person told me, yeah, I would love to, but Live Nation really doesn't book local talent.
Nope.
They told me that to my face. And I was like, what? But, nice person. And was like, hey, if anything ever comes up where I can do that, I will do it. But like the lady said that, we have a lot of nice reps and cool reps from Live Nation that are trying to do some stuff. But when it comes down to it, they don't have the total green light to, support local talent. So that is already happening. For me, I usually get a lot of opening gigs for concerts and stuff like that, even in some of the local venues. But I've noticed that if it's a Live Nation show, if I don't have a relationship specifically like with an artist that is, or the promoter of that, it's a no-go. So I know if that's being done to me, I can't even imagine what is happening to other artists and musicians. So I say all that to say that everyone in this room, is very important that you go out and talk to your peers. And they need to be in these types of gatherings, not just because it's a good, cool thing to come meet each other, but it is really, we're at the point where it's strategically important that we have a collective voice, because Music Portland, Jamie, Music, Policy Council, everybody can talk their heads off about the issues and problems. They're going to come back and say, yeah, but what's the numbers look like? What's the numbers look like? And if we can't prove that there are a lot of voices collectively, then we have to be okay with being railroaded in this city. And we've already had a number of artists and people that's in the music business already leave Portland already because of the fact that they can't do business here. If they can't open up and get events at local venues, then where do they go? And now the space, as we're hearing now, the spaces are even in other cities are starting to get, lesser and lesser. So again, I hope that everyone leaves out of here and goes and talks to your peers and say the next Music Portland, or sign up for Music Portland to get the information to know where to be when your voices are needed. So.
I have like 3 questions.
Awesome.
You mentioned the RFP expires March 2024. What are the conditions of that expiration? And is it conditional, or can it be renewed or extended?
I don't know.
Okay. Next question. Homeland Security won't publish the train schedule.
Right.
How is an effective traffic study done that can be approved?
I don't think there's a way to do it.
Who could, okay.
Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, I suspect that there. I mean, like knowing what I do know, I'm not a transportation expert.
Right.
I'm no kind of engineer, and I don't drive a train. But
Is that a condition of the conditional use, is a approved traffic study by ODOT?
transportation is going. You're going to have for a venue of that kind. Also, because I'm not. It's going to require some conditional use,
Yes.
regardless. That a transportation infrastructure study is going to have to be done. And in fact, we extended an invitation to the Portland Bureau of Transportation to tonight, and we've reached out to Commissioner Maps, who is the commissioner in charge of transportation.
Will that study be public information, or will it be the property of the applicant of the conditional use?
Gosh, I suspect that it's going to have to be a public document. And if it is, we will be getting a copy of it. We will be public records requesting it. I believe that those would be public, and if they go for permits with it. If they don't file for permits, I don't think they have to.
Will Live Nation be subject to the same conditional use permit fees, or are they getting waived due to whatever?
I haven't heard anything specific to any of the conditional use fees being waived, or any of the process being waived in general. I don't believe that there's any, as far as I can tell, the golden carpet or red carpet has not been rolled out.
Okay, but there is one in the closet.
It
a red
exists,
a red
absolutely, yeah.
carpet, Okay.
Yes.
Shit.
Jamie, the transportation analysis will need to be part of a conditional use permit, and all of your permit records are actually online by the address.
There we go.
We'll know who the permit is.
Okay.
Sorry.
And all those documents for everybody who plays at home. There's a website called portlandmaps.org. It is a fantastic public document. I mean, if you're the kind of nerd that likes to figure out, like, hey, what is my house zoned for? And how many robberies have there been in the last 6 months? And also, what were the conditional use permits that were issued for Block A and the ODOT blocks? Those are the fun kind of things you can do for your time. Portlandmaps.org. It's crazy. Yeah. Oh, and noise complaints are on there too, yeah.
So there's no Prosper Portland subsidies?
Correct.
Are there Prosper Portland advantages? Or I don't know if I should be.
Well, you know,
As far as tax abatement and,
as I understand it, the public dollar advantages end at the ownership of the land. Please.
It comes with requirements. So any land sales that we sell, even if it's no subsidy, we have to do our business and workforce equity policies, which requires a certain number of your subs in your workforce are either what it's called bid certified firms, so minority, women owned, and there's the same requirement for folks working on site.
Does that include prevailing wage?
yeah, is it going to be prevailing wage requirement?
Triggered if there's public subsidy.
Oh, but land acquisition does not count as a public subsidy.
That's correct for any project we do, we tie it. Right.
Okay.
Sorry, like if we're investing in the Nick Fish.
Right.
it's triggered.
Okay.
Is there a
Right.
current market value land for the land?
We'll get an appraisal.
Yeah, it'll have to be reappraised block by block,
But
but
so then the appraisal of that land will, so Beam will own the venue or the
Yeah.
venue and
And it's-
have the Live Nation will have the operating agreement. or whatever.
Correct.
So,
yeah.
okay. The traffic study is going to be public information.
It will be public
Okay,
information.
all
And
right.
we'll make sure to publish it. We actually have a whole website, musicportland.org/livenation. We will be posting documents and things like that on there.
It was also my understanding at the inception of the RFP that part of the condition was no multinational corporations would be granted that. I know that didn't get memorialized in it. I've been trying to find the RFP. Is that public information?
You know, it is. It's, I served on the RFP selection
Right.
committee. I will tell you guys right now, it's not in the public record because it was my records and I did a public records request and got a copy of everything. We had a really robust conversation in the room. And there's no transcript of that, of course. But at the time, there was a conversation specifically that I had raised because that's why I was in the room about the specific concern of a multinational billion-dollar conglomeration coming in and building an enormous piece of infrastructure that could damage it. I specifically raised that flag back in 2018, and it's why I'm here now, I guess, because I'm kind of bummed out that it came to fruition anyway. So yeah.
Who would I get the answer for the information on the expiration of the RFP?
The RFP
Okay,
There we go.
okay.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Hi, my name is Michelle, and I'm a local venue owner here in Portland. And I had a lot of thoughts as you guys were giving your feedback. So my brain's on fire right now. So I brought my notes about some key points I wanted to make or ask. And the first is, we're talking a lot about data and the collection of data, and we're going up against someone who has concrete data and they can just pull that out. It's much more complicated here in Portland. Every dollar that I invest in my venue, right, and comping tickets, comping dinners, it's tied, really intertwined with our bar and our food sales, right? So I might do a show for $5. I pay the band $500, $700, and I'm hoping that I'm going to recoup that from my food and my bar. And when we're tallying our numbers here, that the questions that are being asked aren't asking about my bar sales. Most of our small venues here in Portland are not, they're really reliant on their bar sales as part of that figure. So keeping that in mind as we're collecting that data.
Absolutely.
The second thing is money doesn't really matter to them. So talking about whether they're going to have these fees, things like that. I was actually trying to develop a food cart pod in Hillsborough. And what shut me down wasn't the fees. I mean, there were some exorbitant fees for me to pay to do that, but it was the public interest in the traffic flow and what it would do to that particular location. So as we're trying to engage our population, I see most of us around here, I recognize a lot of faces, some that I don't, but we're in the music industry. We're musicians or we're venue owners. I don't see a lot of the lay persons here. And those are the people we need to get engaged. How do we get them engaged? I'm going to put that as a question, but my first two thoughts on that, of course, are explaining to them what a monopoly is. I worked in law for 20 years. I know what that means. I know what kind of damage a monopoly can do. People are still shopping with Amazon, even though we throw that word around like it's a monopoly, but they don't care, right? Because it's easy, it's convenient. And when I talked about Live Nation to my customers, they were like, that sounds pretty cool, actually, right? So explaining to them what a monopoly means and getting that word out there to our customer base, and then explaining to them, as I said, the one big weakness that I think the gentleman before just kind of hit the nail there is the traffic and what it's going to do to impact our neighborhoods. That's what matters to Portland. That's what matters to our fan base and to our customers. I'm open to suggestions on other things that we can do. That was final my question, I guess, is, what can venues do to help? What is our best ammunition besides talking from the stage? Is it fundraising? Is it advocating, obviously, but what is the best thing that venues can do to be supportive of the opposition?
Yeah. I mean, right, immediately, first of all, yes. Music Portland is going to start an effort to try and organize data collection. We really want to start being able to paint the regional picture of what is happening. Not everybody collects zip code data when they sell tickets, but a lot of folks do have some data that we can try and help use to paint the picture of what is actually happening here on the ground. So that's a first step. Second, if you're not, I assume you're already a Music Portland member, so, helping us amplify that and trying to make sure everybody joins in, because we're going to keep trying to build off of this right now. And, the Independent Venue Coalition is fantastic, but also we need to have the voices of people more than just direct skin in the game, but all of us around there. So the more we can get plugged in, this is the start of a conversation. This is not the end of a conversation that we're having tonight. We're going to need to have really smart ideas and smart people around the table and different opportunities. So I don't know what else you guys can do right now, but that's just the fact that you're here right now asking to help is huge. So thank you for being here.
I wanted to make a few comments on next steps. But first I wanted to address, I think you said the venue would be locally owned. That's how Live Nation works in every city. They get a local person to own the venue, they lease it, they still destroy the community. And then if there's a downturn, they leave the local venue owner holding the bag. So that's not a selling point to me. But for next steps, I see a lot of people talking about public comment periods. I feel like Portland in the last couple of years has shown those public comment periods mean absolutely nothing to our council or our mayor. Police accountability, they all just get bulldozed over. I don't think public comment works, basically. Over the last couple of years, we've seen 95% of people come out and say, hey, we want this done. And the council says great and does the exact opposite. It just doesn't seem effective. What has seemed to be effective is ballot initiatives. And we own all the venues in town. We don't have to pay people to collect signatures. We just put the clipboards right there. Everyone that comes in, yo, hey, do you want to stop Live Nation? I also think we actually have a great opportunity to stop Live Nation. One, we're Portland. The people of Portland probably aren't too keen on a company that is almost a third owned by the Saudi royals rolling in here. We generally like, LGBT rights and journalists keeping their heads. So pointing out that that's who's coming in is great messaging. Also, there's a number of large artists, big name artists, that are already aware of this in Portland. We're the last city that doesn't have a Live Nation venue. And a lot of big artists want to keep it that way, and I think would be willing to offer support. So yeah, I guess I'm wondering if there's an idea or a possibility of setting up a ballot initiative preventing Live Nation from coming in and doing what they do.
Yeah, so I'll tell you, first of all, yes, thank you. I appreciate not only your passion, but you're exactly right, that we need to coalesce around a set of ideas. There's no legal mechanism to say this business can't operate here. They have a legal right to sublet space, and there's not really any sort of legal way, even if we had a ballot initiative, just say Live Nation sucks and should go away, they can still open it. That's not an enforceable thing that we could do. What we could do is look at other things that we could do around that. Specifically, other cities have put in together, by ballot initiative, a local ticket tax, where for every ticket that is sold, including Blazer games and movie tickets, we charge an extra 5 cents. And all that money goes to a pot of money that just supports local music. We could do something like that. We could do something like trying to direct how public dollars are spent, or try to get a new tax on something specific about how Live Nation. We could implement a 200% local tax on Live Nation tickets if we wanted to. Where that gets us at the end of it, and the amount of money and effort that is required to do a ballot campaign, it sucks. But I am absolutely keeping those options open. And I would love to try and also continue to reach out to other cities and see what have they done to try and, I don't want to reinvent the wheel, but I think you're exactly right. There's some sort of collective action that we can all take. And you're not wrong that the access to broad audiences to quickly get signatures should actually be pretty formidable to, a little intimidating to public officials. So thank you. Yes.
Hello.
Hi.
Hi. This is my first meeting. My name's Stefan. I do everything from push cases off of semis, run sound. I play keys and vocals in a band locally. The long and short of it is, this is an industry that provides and supports pays my bills, provides for me. So the first thing I noticed is that there are, mostly talk about things I don't really understand or have any expertise in. But what I do take away from it is that the general interest substantiates that there's potential value still to be realized in the Portland music scene and the demand for music. We should work to realize that in the local existing scene before putting a price tag on it, on something that's so irreplaceable and unique to our city. This seems like a lot of extra steps when we have something that could be built upon already or grown into something that the local music community could be better served by. And then the selling point as locally owned does really seem like shifting liability should things go south. So those are just statements, no question there. But as someone who's just speaking from passion, and I've never had another livelihood my entire life. I'm fortunate in that, but I've got nowhere else to go.
Yeah.
So then my other question, being in a band myself, and I don't understand all these things, but does the radius restriction, does that mean that combined with them offering local shows and opportunities to, I guess, put local bands on their stage, would that radius restriction prevent local bands from playing their hometown and region?
Potentially. Yeah, absolutely. If you played a show in Bend, you couldn't play in Portland.
I can't I can't subside, I can't do with not playing a show in my hometown
Absolutely.
for that amount of time.
Yeah,
There's a thing called maintaining your fan base.
turns out,
And
yeah.
it's really important. And so if on top of my own hometown, I can't run my local circuit, whereas me, I played in bars. I played the Firkin Tavern last Friday to about 30 people.
That's dope.
It made my
good
weekend.
turnout. That's awesome.
It is. It's a fantastic turnout.
Yeah.
It really is.
Yeah.
But if I can't maintain that, I don't keep the percentage of people that might come back next time.
Absolutely.
If I'm having to wait that long, time after time. So I think that's a really important thing to consider when they're offering that concession, is that it seems, unless I understand incorrectly, sort of slighted.
Yeah.
In that if you take this, you are under their thumb
Absolutely.
for that period in that region. I don't remember the numbers or the dates or anything.
Yeah.
But I know that when I did see them, it did not substantiate something that I could continue to do what I love doing, within those terms.
100%.
So,
Absolutely. Well, thank you.
yeah, thank you.
Thanks, brother.
Can I touch this? Oh, okay.
Yeah.
What's up? I'm Gary. I'm a musician. I build crappy guitar pedals also. So I just think it's really important that the corporations, right? They're gonna corporation. I feel like a lot of this is these are symptoms of the whole system around us is built to favor massively wealthy and massively powerful, giant entities. If we come at this from an emotional angle, even if the people making the decisions agree, they're gonna be okay, well, there's no money in that, so we're gonna go with the money thing. I think that whatever we can figure out to do to cut the profit to places like Live Nation, I don't know. I don't have any action plans or anything, but
No, you're exactly
if
right,
we all come here, but then a week later there's a band we really want to see, and then we go to a Live Nation show, we're kind of fucking up a little bit.
It's hard because they are such a huge component of the music scene everywhere else that you first of all, don't feel guilty if you go to the Hayden Homes Amphitheater and see a show or something. That's just how it is. But there's so much that we can do here locally to try and protect what is special about this. We're not opposed. I hope everyone here walks away from this event saying, we aren't anti 4,000 person venue in the Central East Side. If it's the right venue, we'll help with the transportation infrastructure. That's fine. We are not fan of the people who are on board to operate that venue. So absolutely, we got to defend what makes us special here and not bring in the Walmart of music. So thank you, Gary.
Sweet.
Hello. Okay, I'm good. I want to be a bit controversial with you guys.
Yeah.
Cause why not? Because not all of us are a musician and owners and all that. There's some of us who are engineers or doing live sound or stagehand, which we usually don't see so much over here, but we exist in the industry and you don't see as much. But that's a part of Live Nation that would bring a lot of freaking work, steady work, not a gig after gig after gig. I'm not pro Live Nation. I'm
Sure.
just saying a point of view of something that I would like of you all to consider as something to think of.
Yeah.
Because it's really freaking hard in Portland.
Yes.
I came from LA. I had work. Any stone I would fucking throw, I would get
Yeah.
work. Anywhere.
Yeah.
You look under a chair, there would be work. But here, it's very niche.
Yes.
Everyone knows everyone. You have to know people to get
Yes.
into the industry.
Absolutely.
And then it's
We got our own shit to deal with as an
little
industry.
gig, little
Yeah.
gig. How do I pay the bills?
Absolutely.
And it's very stressful, especially, all of you artists know, all the venue people, you all know that it's really rough. And bringing something that big, if we don't want it, or if we have no way of not having it, maybe construct a way to create jobs just for people from the area.
agree.
Okay, if Live Nation comes here, maybe only have local works, only work with the stagehand from this area, only work with like live sound people from this area. So we can all get the benefits of working, because it is constant, they do pay well, they do give benefits, which is something that is very hard to find in this industry. They are, sorry, but publicly known to be good with women, as like, there's a lot in the industry. I just know people
No,
who
you're
work
wrong.
with them.
You're not wrong.
And if we can make them do something that works with our artists, our people, with our equipment, with our LED companies, with our lighting, then we can make it into our benefits. And just a different point of view of not like, okay, they're coming, let's, as much as like, how can we also benefit and also make this beneficial to us as an industry that support each other, and as an industry who also want to make money without destroying our local places, local bands, and local venues, because we all work together. I don't know how you do that. I'm just an
Totally.
engineer, but still.
Yes, I think you're spot on. Again, we're not opposed to a venue. Anything that brings more work to the people in this room and gets more Portland music happening, we're 100% behind it. And especially as we were talking about safety in venues, and safety also like are just the safe spaces that are like the inherent kind of masculine stuff needs to go. So we as an industry have our own work to do, and you're not wrong. And these are the things that I'm also struggling with a little bit, is that nobody's building anything in Portland right now. And this is the first major time, this is the first time in the last 20 years that someone's saying, we're going to spend $60 million or $50 million on the music industry. Like, that doesn't happen in Portland, but it's Live Nation, and we don't want
but
them.
how
So
can we
if
make
we
them
can
work
set,
for us?
right, if they are coming, is there an opportunity? Is there a real opportunity? Do we have collective enough power to put real bookends around how they come to Portland, rather than just kicking the door down and making
Yeah,
as
and
much
like
space?
making rules into LGBTQ like openness, and being okay with also have like venues with kids and like local, and
Absolutely.
supporting us.
Yes. If Live Nation came to us tomorrow and said, hey, we're ready to put terms on the paper, we can't do X, Y, and Z, but we'll do this, we're having a very different conversation. And right now we have a partner who's not willing to put anything on paper, but I would love to continue to put the pressure on this company to get them to put it on paper. If it's gonna happen, we should have it come under our terms. I think you're so spot on. So, thank you.
Hey there, my name is Mark Bowden. I'm a musician around town and promote shows. My question is this: what level of coordination is going on between the MP and the music business people? There's a lot of familiar faces here on the business side of things. You know, Waterfront Blues Fest is in the house. Alberta Abbey's in the house. A lot is in the house. What's the level of high-level coordination? Because kind of at the end of the day, power respects power, and power speaks to power.
Agreed. Yeah, we're only as powerful as the members, and we are a membership-based organization. And, so just as an aside, I was a musician in this city for 20 years, and I felt like I was an island unto myself. And the reason when I started working in the city, and when Mara walked in the door, I was like, hey, this is who I am, and this is what Music Portland is about. It clicked with me in a way that it wouldn't have clicked with anybody else in City Hall, because nobody is speaking on behalf of the music community as a whole. And so, yeah, no, we're only as strong as the people around it. I can have a very loud voice, but you're right, we haven't gotten the buy-in yet from folks. And I'm trying to meet people where they are. Mara is doing a hell of a job trying to build this organization up. But music folk, y'all are like an ornery about, you don't like to play well. So we're trying to be as much coordinated as possible and trying to work with IVC and a bunch of different, Yeah, Jim's, you're very ornery. Jim is the orneries. Jim is not ornery, for the record. Jim's back there. Yeah, cool. Thank you.
Hey, first, just thank you so much, Jamie, for all of this research and presenting this. Like, I feel so much better informed about this. And I think, to get people here, we have to we must raise the specter of what could happen, but then actually understanding the details of it. And I think even understanding scorched earth may not be realistic. If we can really arrive at that level, like, let's all stand up. But the nuance in the messaging and the communications, I think, is coming up in a lot of these comments, which I think is really interesting. And I just want to put the brain trust feelers in the room, like whoever is good at communicating, distilling a message, distilling a long policy presentation where now we all are caught up in the weeds, but how do we get this to a 2-minute reel that both can explain to fellow musicians and music industry people what's going on here, but they already have the background to kind of understand that. But how do you articulate the difference between a corporate driven music culture and how much it actually gives back to our community and how much it extracts? And what independent music means for this town. Because I think if this project can raise awareness of that even beyond the Live Nation stuff, that will be a net good for our music community.
Absolutely.
So in terms of articulating that, but also articulating that it's not just necessarily a scorched earth policy, right. Telling people, not saying it's not just an outrage campaign. It's hey, this is what's going on. We're not just trying to burn down an enemy. These are some of the reasonable requests we have. And then I think in particular, when you're talking about people from other cities, I really think those voices could be really powerful to connect with people. If any of those people are willing to do a front-facing video, talk to us about hey, Portland, we're from Chicago. This is what happened here. This is what we were able to do. We're Nashville. This is what it looks like now. I think those stories are really compelling.
Absolutely, completely. We're only as powerful as our stories, and I am long-winded, and I've been talking for 2 hours so far. No, an hour and a half.
You're very smart, though.
Thank you, but we need to get this down to 2 minutes, and we need to get it so that we can all put it on a bumper sticker.
Everyone can share it to their story with the here's what you need to know about Live Nation in Portland. Absolutely.
So,
also, just quick question. How vindictive are they? If they find out people have been talking shit about them? Just quick question.
They're not good players. They're not they're not nice.
Great.
I don't think
we're gonna do the blurred face kind of situation.
I don't think I could ever, sit down with them cordially at this point. I'm pretty sure I've been blacklisted at this point. So
cool.
No, probably very vindictive, and probably also this is going to be, now that we are bringing this fight to you all and bringing it out here and trying to get as much input, things are going to start happening. So please pay attention. And pay attention if you start hearing things in the community that feels weird, because things are going to get weird.
Cool. Yeah. All right. Thank you.
Thank you, friend.
Jamie is more succinct than me.
That's true. I'm slightly more succinct than Mara.
One party that hasn't been mentioned much in all this is the Beam Development. Sorry, I've never talked into a microphone before. So
You're good. It's going to sound weird. You're fine.
Beam Development, you mentioned, is going to technically be the owner of the building. And I kind of agree with a couple of the comments where saying, oh, it's still going to be a locally owned venue. Seems a little bit disingenuous when Live Nation is the organization that's going to actually be profiting. But that aside, is there any approach that you see that involves lobbying Beam Development? Because I just took a quick look at their website. They look like a good local company. They own this building, it looks like.
They own the building we're in right now.
They own the building I work in. People that I work with just on Slack this morning said, oh, we met with the building owners. They're really interested in what we're doing. They want to do this. They want to do that. In my 30 seconds of research, they seem like decent people. Is there any aspect that could appeal to them?
Yes, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, absolutely. So Beam Development, my experience with them up to and including today has been only positive. I truly believe that they are trying to build something for Portland to support the music community. And they don't know enough about the music community to know why Live Nation is not the partner. I also think that the realities of development are bonkers. And trying to get anybody to get financing right now is almost impossible. And so I think that Live Nation is actually a big part of how they are going to be able to fund the other parts of this development. And so I believe that they do not want to, that Beam does not want to do harm to the music community. But they also do want this project to move forward. So it's about trying to figure out how much leverage do we have here? How much are they willing to put pressure on their potential future tenant? And how much are they willing to say, these are the conditions by which we will allow you to be in our project? And what happens if Live Nation says no? And that's a really messed up position for us to put this company in, who I truly believe are trying to do the right thing. But that is our leverage. That is the only point we have. The only people who have a decision in this is Beam and Colas, because they own the ground, or they own the build. They're going to own the bricks and mortar, and they are the ones who signed the lease agreement. So I think that is exactly right. That's where we need to think about what it looks like to not also, though. I mean, the reality is that Colas Construction is one of the more prolific Black-owned construction firms in Portland. They have real skin in this game. They already have hundreds of thousands of dollars into this project. That's why I don't want to go full scorched earth, because those are local people who have been building here, and Beam and Colas are good folk. But how do we not, ultimately, end of the day, their business is no more important than any of your businesses. But, how do we get this to a place where we're going to have that next fight? They're going to be at the table no matter what. They're going to be in this community for the long term. Let's not burn bridges. So this is exactly right. This is the challenge. I'm stuck with it. It's a little hard, but thank you. You're exactly right, Liz. Thank you.
I just want to ask if the alternative has been thought of creating kind of more of a alternative investor who is a conglomerate of, let's say, private investors, nonprofits that want to create an entity similar to the music office that you and Mira are trying to advocate for, and have that building be the home for music and arts in Portland. An entity maybe similar to Prosper that is, governing equity in music, still being built by Colas. We could envision an alternative. I just don't know if we should have had this conversation 4 years ago, and if we don't have the time to start that organizing now. So pipe dream idea, but
remember, we've only known about this since, Live Nation wasn't at the table until March of last year. They weren't even remotely attached to this project until March of last year. So what's that? Oh, yeah. So we are at the point where this is the place to start putting pressure, I think. But yeah, maybe ideally I should have been doing this 6 months ago. Yeah, you're not wrong.
No, I just want to recognize Live Nation has the cash in hand.
They have the cash in hand.
That organizing that kind of Laurel Thirst, when it was up for sale, they bought their building after doing a lot of community organizing. And I think there's a chance
there's an option. There's options here, but somebody earlier mentioned, that the Saudi government has a stake in there. They don't have a majority stake. They only have a 5.8% stake in Live Nation. That 5% stake is worth $1 billion. This is a $50 billion company we are dealing with. They can build their venue. They can, that sort of leverage is sort of hard to go against. But yeah, I think there's possibly a path. Anyway, thank you.
I just want to add one twist.
Oh yeah, wait, we got to applaud Rose. Thank you, Rose.
Add one twist from a timing standpoint that I think is interesting. For those that don't know, there's a lot of discussion now about the Keller Auditorium being at the end of its life and possibly being torn down, possibly, who knows what. But that's a venue that is the closest in size to what this venue would be. So it seems very strange, the idea of two venues exactly almost the same size coming online at about the same time.
Agreed. Thank you, sir.
Hi there. My name is Philip Pelletier. I'm a music producer and direct shows and tour around the country. And I am not ornery.
Not yet. You haven't been doing it long enough.
I've got a long fuse. But I was wondering, OMSI owns a lot of the waterfront property, like a lot of it, like in the miles, not just blocks, I believe. Are they part of this conversation? Because they're going to have to okay a lot of this for changing.
Well, yes, OMSI, Prosper Portland has been hosting that economic impact study. They've been doing the economic impact study, and they've been hosting a couple of meetings about it, including the Central East Side Industrial Council, including OMSI, including some of the larger property owners in the area. So they have been at the table. They're not, honestly, my interaction with the representative from OMSI specifically was that they just didn't understand the nuance enough of this and didn't care. The way that, I'm being overly general here, but they are planning an enormous redevelopment of their space. If you guys haven't heard about the OMSI master plan that's going to be happening, buildings and apartments, it's going to be massive. They're going to change the direction of Water Avenue. It's going to be nuts. But I think from their perspective, other developments help their development. And if it's bringing jobs, if it's bringing economic development, if it's putting cranes back in the sky, and it's ostensibly around the arts, why are we talking about this? Is literally what the guy from OMSI said. He's like, well, I don't understand why we're even talking about this. This sounds like a great deal. So it's an education thing. I think we need to really start educating our neighbors. We're going to start, that's why we're here right now, is because we wanted to make sure that we start getting folks from the Central East Side directly involved, and the neighbors who are going to be thinking about this and whatnot. That. So no, they haven't been super helpful yet. I think they could be though.
Yeah. Willamette Week did a great story about that huge expansion. And if anyone wants to see this is sort of along those lines. It's going to change the face of the city.
It's going to be massive if they can pull it off. They've been talking about it for a long time. And I've seen a lot of master plans that they came to city council with, and a lot of different things. But something's going to be built there. Like there's no option to not. OMSI's long-term financial viability depends on redeveloping that whole area. So if this whole, give us a decade. This section of town is not going to look like this anymore. It's going to be wild.
Thank you.
Thank you, sir.
I'm not a musician. I'm not in the music industry. I'm just a fan, but I'm on the OMSI Development Committee. And I think it's important for everyone in the music industry to be making partners with people in ancillary markets, whether it's the film and TV industry or whether it's people in the culinary industry, and expand the outreach. So it's not just artists and venue owners having a voice and saying, there's going to be issues with traffic. There's going to be issues with, the train tracks are already a problem around here. Get community support around it, and have a bigger voice and expand beyond that. Personally, I'm just a huge fan of music. I don't have a voice right now because I just had a big music festival. So that's why I'm part of Music Portland, because I really, really want to see something big come to Portland and do great things and create jobs. Like Talia was saying, I think it's important to have more money in this community to keep the music industry sustainable. But Live Nation sucks. So let's just have a voice in it by making more noise about it. But I don't think the scorched earth option is a really good option. I think there needs to be more of hey, let's approach it from get PBOT on board. I've done permits with Prosper Portland and PBOT and ODOT. That's what I do in the film industry a lot for many years. And Prosper Portland's been great to work with, and so has PBOT, and so they can be partners. So rather than try and fight the big monster, let's finesse them a little bit. And let's make something good out of this. But we can't just be flexible. We gotta be strong together, but we gotta, get more people behind us, and that's going out to different ancillary markets and playing that card right. I think OMSI can be a really good partner with the OMSI district, especially if we're saying hey, let's get an all ages thing going on there. And if we block them for a minute and buy some time while we're getting the PBOT to say, hey, this is what we're gonna do with our traffic plan. For what AJ was saying earlier, how do we get the smaller local independent artists and musicians? How do we get some more momentum behind that? Those blocks, we've rented them out for crew parking, base camp, and different film productions. We can do events there and keep that going and build up the smaller independent music
absolutely
machine while we're kind of blocking them at the same time, say, this is what we want behind this venue.
Absolutely. Absolutely. Awesome, bro. Thank you. And just as an aside, I was an OMSI planetarium presenter at one point, and it turns out that people really like knowing about stars. That's pretty cool. That's a long-term thing. Oh, that's Cassiopeia.
Hi, just an idea that came to my mind is that the band Lawrence, who's on the rise right now, the amazing band, they spoke in front of Congress against Live Nation. They're coming through town in November, opening up for the Jonas Brothers. So if they could actually say something from stage, or could actually kind of engage with them to get them to speak to local council, or just to bring music community together, they're amazing.
Awesome. That's a great flag. We will, yeah, we'll do that.
Hi, I'm Leah. I'm the director of Alberta Abbey here with. Thank you. I guess a couple things I wanted to say. First of all, thank you to Prosper Portland. They gave us $25,000 for a new boiler. We wouldn't have had heat without them this year. And we also are applying for other grants, and they've been such a supporter of the arts. And so, I'm really thankful for them. What I just keep thinking is like, does Beam Construction and Beam and Colas Construction understand the stakes here? And I would love to be part of a conversation with them, because I know several of them and I think they're wonderful people and that they would care a lot. So I think, and then I just want to encourage all of you guys, we're starting to do a series of town halls where we're bringing in, so next Saturday from 10 to 12, we have Senator Frederick and Representative Nelson and Representative Sanchez coming to the Alberta Abbey. And come ask your questions. They all want to support the arts. We were down in Salem lobbying, and what my understanding is that there's just not enough money to go around, right? Oregon, I believe we should have sales tax. I think that has hurt us tremendously, and our state is really suffering because of that. It's just ridiculous. But we're 38th in the nation for funding in the arts, and it's pathetic and very sad, and I don't think what Portland wants, but there's just not enough dollars, and so we need to start at the top, and then we're going to have another town hall with Mingus Maps on October 22nd, and we're going to continue these conversations. I'm asking for timelines and action items, and so please come support, give us your awesome questions, let's hold them to the fire.
Be there. Awesome. Thank you.
I'm gonna jump in here and support my girl right here, Alberta Abbey in the house. You guys, we're the new kid on the block, and we're learning, it's trial by fire. But everything that is going on, the energy that's in this room, this is all we need. I've met with Andrew Colas and Tony Hobson just last week.
They're good people.
They're great people, man. They're community people.
Really are.
But they need to see this.
Yes.
We need to have a forum where we can come and get all the heads together at the table, you guys, because it's an important moment in time right now. You're right. And if we can do this right now together, my nonprofit is Elevate Unity. That's why I did it.
Yeah, I know.
That's the only thing that's going to make a difference. It's together. We're so much stronger. And I just want you guys to remember that. Just keep the positive part. The scorchers, that stuff, it doesn't work anymore. Nope. You see on TV, it's just not working.
Nope.
We've got to come together, and we have so much in common, you guys. I love you guys. Whatever you guys can do, Alberta Abbey is here to support you guys. And I tell you, we're going to make a difference. We're going to turn this around. We're going to make this a positive, because these people like this, there's so many people in the industry that need jobs, man. And we need a signature place. There's Bourbon Street, all these places. We need a place like that.
We need buy-in.
We make them guys support that.
Absolutely.
With local music. All right, you guys with us? Let's do this now, okay? All right. Thank you, guys. All right.
Okay, JP is the best hype man in this city. I'm just saying. Saying. And I swore to Jamie I wouldn't talk tonight. I swore it.
I didn't make you swear that.
No, I know, but I did, and
You still got another half hour. You're fine. No.
I'm breaking my promise. But Nashville is Music City. Austin is the live music capital of the world, douche mark. And
And Seattle is the city of sound because those places decided to be. And as Jamie has often said, there's a big difference between really loving music and supporting music. And as a city, that's what this debate is about. This debate is about saying that what the value that we have created here, which we recently quantified with an acknowledged 30% underreporting, as a $4.1 billion industry in the state of Oregon that employs more people than cannabis, timber, and fishing.
Yeah, we do.
This is not a hat in hand situation. We are a cultural and economic imperative in the state. And we collectively have an enormous power if we claim it. And I'm not just saying what that claim needs to ask for. That's what we're deciding and what we will decide collectively. But we all need to understand this is not we're asking for something. We have earned something, and we deserve not to have it sold back to us at a markup.
Friends, thank you guys for being here tonight. This music scene I grew up in it, and it's really important that it's gonna be here. Every other major city has watched these places go, and we've lost so much in the last few years. You guys, the Ash Street Saloon is a chicken restaurant with condos on top of it now. This city is fundamentally changing. And if we don't act intentionally and strategically in the next few months, next few years, it's all gonna go away. It's just gonna dissolve away. So we need to come together to collectively lift up with one voice. Thank you guys for coming out tonight. Please join Music Portland. Thank you, Bunk Bar. Thank you guys for hosting us. Please tip your bartender. And sign up and get involved. Thanks, guys.